Now, since we are all pivoting and accelerating towards our goals, one of the things that really made me wake up and begin to see a change in my life and the things that I want and how fast I am moving towards them is observing successful women. And one thing that stood out from all that observation was women who are successful are very shameless. And there's this saying that good girls don't make history. And that is true. Girls who follow the rules and the preset standards of society do not achieve what they want to achieve. Now, when we talk about being shameless, it doesn't necessarily mean being rude, being mannerless, or acting in a way that annoys people. There's a difference. There's a difference, sorry. Being shameless means not being afraid of what people will say, what people will think, and not letting that hinder or influence your actions. Because basically, when we are children, that is where the programming starts that a man leads and a girl, she works on her manners and she is demure, she's not too loud, she's not too emotional, and that is the ideal woman according to standards of society. And I don't know who wrote these standards, but they are there and they are unwritten, but they are very strongly followed and strongly encouraged. And so when I found myself thinking about now it's time for me to start pivoting and accelerating towards my goal, I discovered that I had to be shameless. And I usually refer to myself as a former certified good girl. I went to school, I did all the right things, I followed a path that was somewhat linear. I achieved the accolades that I wanted. I pursued an MBA. I did all that. But still, when I moved to Finland, I found myself in a situation where I was away from the systems that somehow gave me a certain level of comfort. You know, they keep you in a comfort zone. I found myself that I have to start all over again. And it wasn't what I expected. And I quickly began to realize that I have to put myself out there because most of the time, women who are, going after what they want, they are not listening to the social norms that are being out there. Oh, you cannot be too loud, you cannot be too emotional, you cannot be too ambitious, because they know already whichever way they choose to go and whichever path they choose to take, whether they choose to be the certified good girl or the woman who gets what she wants, they know there will always be judgment. Because, if you get married early, you have wasted your potential. If you get married late, you were already on the shelf. If you pursue a career, you are not family oriented. If you are a homemaker raising children, you are not doing enough, and that is basically not a job. If you speak out your mind, you are too opinionated. If you are too quiet, then you are choosing the side of the, you know, if you're too quiet about opinions, then it means you're choosing the bad side. So whatever a woman does, there will always be an opinion. If you have kids too early, they will say to you that, oh, you still don't have the skills to raise children, or you are wasting your life. If you wait till you are established to start having kids, they say, oh my, what's gonna happen? You are at risk of so many things. Well, and it's unfair to the kids and whatnot. And there's always going to be something that is said that you will never win. So when I observed successful women who are going and getting everything that they want, whether it's the family, the career, the relationship, they are shameless, and they believe that they can get what they want. And this is something that I wish that I learned earlier on. But unfortunately or fortunately, things come to people at the right time, in the right situation, to make you move to the next step. So when I found myself in Finland, and I didn't know anyone apart from my husband and his family, I quickly realized that after spending a year as a stay at home wife, that was not my thing. Like, everyone has a different calling. I've already known from a long time ago that I love doing stuff. I love, achieving some career goals or something, or creating something. And I must say mad respect to homemakers, because that is a calling. Anyway, so I found myself in this situation where I had to put myself out there, because I was in a situation where I couldn't be scared. I had to go out and start finding my own network. And I didn't know the language. And learning the language actually was one of the key things that just took away all my shame, as it were, because I knew when I spoke, I was speaking the things, I was getting a point across, but grammatically everything was jumbled up. And I knew that everything that I was saying was not in the correct grammatical error, uh, grammatical mode. Sorry, and everything I was speaking sounded a lot like just a bunch of errors. And if you had moved to a country and started a whole new life and learned a new language, you would understand this point where I was at. And I knew that if I allowed the shame of how I was talking to hinder me from actually integrating, I would pay for it forever. So I decided that I would just speak. I would ask questions. Oh my. I would ask questions. And sometimes I got looks and I was like, well, I don't care. You understood what I said, yeah? And at some point, I would blush and I'll be like, oh, I'm sorry. I didn't say that correct, but do you understand? Until I realized, why am I apologizing? So I started being more bold, and I began to even walk into establishments and be like, hey, I've never worked in Finland and I'm looking for an internship. Because this is the kind of society that, if you read about Finland, or if you've been to Finland, you would understand that people here don't do small talk. You don't just approach anyone from anywhere and start talking to them. That is seen as it's they just don't do it. It's just not done. But I knew what I wanted, and to get there, I knew that I had to put myself out there. So I began to just throw myself in the ring and be like, what's the worst that can happen? People would can laugh at me, people can say, oh, that foreigner, or people can people will judge me because I am very bubbly and I come from a very social society. So, and I really tried to be, reserved and whatnot, but that's just not me. And of course, I love my alone time, but there was no way that that was going to become my personality. And for me to get to where that I am going, I needed to, you know, just push myself and put myself out there. So I wasn't ashamed when I began to, sell as a cashier. I don't know how that happened, but I ended up like selling as a cashier. And for my first internship, like my first proper internship, I was selling as a cashier, barely speaking the language, you can imagine. Sorry about that. There's some notification. Anyway, I was selling, and I was not just selling anything, I was selling at a very, very busy beauty store. And I was shamelessly, like, confidently saying, "Oh, yes, I know what you want." As long as I understood that word, but I didn't let on to the customers, like, like I don't know what I'm doing, but I was very confident. And you see, the thing about shamelessness, it's actually as a result of having confidence in what you're doing. Because if you're confident in what you want to achieve, then you'll be shameless because I have the capacity to achieve this. So to achieve this, I just have to overcome that shame. And shamelessness is another thing that will make you, if you're very bad at, having boundaries, like drawing the lines when it comes to relationships and situations, being shameless allows you to actually have boundaries, because you'll be like, "Oh, I'm not doing this, and I cannot be around somebody who is not on the who is doing something that I don't perceive as something that I would engage in, or I cannot be around that. It's not profitable for me, it's not working for me, and it doesn't serve me, it doesn't serve my goals and purpose." Because one of the things about having a lot of shame and being the good girl is you are confined to people pleasing and pleasing everyone, and being understanding, as it were. You understand everyone and every situation, so you have a zero or no little boundaries. So one of the things that I started to learn is that now, okay, now I'm shameless. I can say, "No, I'm not going to dinner, I'm not drinking today. That's me. I have something else. I need to go home. I have studies to make. There is a course or something, or I need rest. I've been working all week," something like that. So that is being shameless, and it has really helped me to start to see results, because it takes time, because it's not something you will just wake up and learn how to do. It's not something that will just come so easily to you. It's something that you have to practice. Like being shameless is a practice, it's like a lifestyle. Like, if this doesn't serve me, and now let's get to relationships, because most women, they suffer because they don't voice out what they actually want, because they are afraid, because they have been taught to just wait to receive. And in actual sense, we end up blaming the whole society because they didn't do what we needed or wanted them to do. It's like, you have to understand, people are not mind readers. People cannot know what you need if you don't tell them what you actually need. And being shameless allows you to actually say, "This is what I want, what I like, and I'm not going to take anything less. I'm not going to settle for less." So if you feel like these are, These are my deal breakers. You have a list of deal breakers, especially when you're looking now to settle down and get into a serious relationship. You have to have a list of deal breakers, like this I can accommodate, but this no. And you have to really be firm in them. And this will save you a lot of heartache, a lot of problems, a lot of, finding yourself in situations that you don't want to be in. Because most people, when you ask them how they settle down, they just say to you, "Oh, I found myself." How do you just find yourself? You find yourself because you are taught how to persevere and be quiet about the situations and the things that you don't want, and you just wait that people will somehow realize that this is not what you want, and they start doing something that you want. So when it comes to relationship, when somebody asks me, "Helen, so how do I go about this?" I just say to them, like, do you have a list of the things that you want? Because there is someone out there who matches you on your level. There is somebody who actually sees these things as normal things. And I can guarantee you, staying in that situation where you are not happy, you're not satisfied, it doesn't get better, unfortunately. And I'm not talking about little things, because there are things that you can talk about with your partner that you can change. But I'm talking about the big things, like the big deals. That's why women talk of, like, I waited so long, but he never changed. But you are not shameless enough to say, "Hey, I'm not doing this," and walk away. Because most people feel the shame of walking away, especially, unfortunately. Sorry, I have to sip some tea. Unfortunately, when it comes to especially abusive relationships, and this is coming from a point that this was something that I went to school to study, sociology and social psychology, that most people, when it comes to abusive relationships, they find it hard to come out of them because of the shame. And this is why one of the things that I really, really now advocate for is for you to be shameless, and not to just settle just for anything because you don't think that there is something out there for you. So being shameless, in the end, it doesn't it doesn't cost you. It actually benefits you and those around you, because then you are able to show up as you know you're able to show up as the best version of yourself, and actually make impact in the place that you have been placed. Because everybody has a calling, has a destiny, and everybody has something that they can give out as value, and if you are there, you're timid, you're scared, you're full of shame, what will people think, how will I explain this, then you end up not ever doing anything. And in the end, you're just full of bitterness, strife, and regret, which end up eating you, even emotionally, psychologically, and they end up translating even physically with lifestyle diseases, autoimmune diseases, because you are not shameless and bold enough to say, "This is what I want." So, how do I, you might ask me, how do I start to be shameless? It starts with the little things. You know, if you want something, write down a list of 5 things that you want to do, actually, that you've been scared to do, and do them. Just small steps. Every day you wake up, and if you find a boundary being crossed, be be bold enough to say, no, that doesn't work for me. This is not my thing. Excuse me," without caring what people will think or what people will say, because this essentially will save you from all kinds of emotional and physical pain, and save you from a life of regret. So, shamelessness will allow you to put yourself out there. You know, there are people with a lot of great ideas, a lot of great talent that the world is missing because they are ashamed of what people will think. What if I fail? You know, success isn't linear. Most of the time you will fail so many times before you actually hit that sweet spot, and you're like, oh, now it's working out. So let go of the shame, let go of the shame, and be shameless. And I will see you in my next video. And if you have more insights, kindly comment down below, because if you go out there and start studying and observing your successful women, they have been told a lot of stuff, a lot of things that would put somebody in a psych ward, but because they have conquered shame and have become shameless, they are actually getting everything that they want. Now, I'll see you in my next video. Thank you for sticking so far, and kindly hit a like and subscribe and put on your notification bell so that you know when I upload more content. Thank you. God bless and have a nice rest of the week. Bye bye.